Before we get into today's episode of the Dirty Shirts podcast, we'd like to give a shout out to our local gym, Ground Up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy, located in Yuba City, California. Ground Up is a locally owned and family operated academy, offering gi and no gi training and instruction. We have youth, teens, ladies, all adults classes, 6 days a week. We highly recommend Jiu-Jitsu for all walks of life: military, first responder, medical, blue collar and white collar. Jiu-Jitsu is for everyone. So if it's worth looking it up for you, check out gubjja.com, Instagram, and Facebook for more.
The Dirty Shirts Podcast!
So today, I'm very, very thankful to have my brother Justin with me. Justin is one of our main instructors at our academy, Ground Up. And I'll turn it over to you, Justin. You can just tell me a little about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Justin Pate. I was born and raised in Marysville, California, Northern California, right over the bridge from our academy. And I ended up doing a bunch of various jobs throughout my life, and then ended up marrying my wife, and we have one son together. And his real dad's not around, and I adopted him. I just mentioned that because I suspect it'll be a subject later on.
And we'll definitely get into that. So primarily this conversation is about jiu-jitsu, and I want to just kind of start off and to say, like, what, or have you kind of walk us through from your perspective, what was it that got you into jiu-jitsu in the first place?
I used to lift weights a lot, and then I just was working at a warehouse at one point in time, and I noticed my body was just not operating the same way between the weightlifting and bending down doing warehouse work. It was hard to put my shoes on some mornings. And then we went to one of my wife's friend's house, and I've noticed this thing before that people do, but I noticed it a lot this day. She was picking up a cake from a friend, and her husband was watching a football game. And no disrespect to this gentleman, but he's a little bit, you could tell he hadn't played football in a while, but he was screaming at the TV. And I realized I wasn't doing anything, but he was watching this thing and screaming about what they should do, what they shouldn't do, yelling.
Yep.
And at the time, I was also into UFC and listening heavily to like Joe Rogan, the Jocko podcast. And I realized that I was interested in jiu-jitsu and the fights, but I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
So that was one of the main factors that moment that kind of led me into just jumping over the ledge and trying that first class.
It's funny how you say that too, because like I've had the perspective with sports and like martial arts in general, where you have people that are fans, and then or they're just kind of into it. They like to watch it, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily involved. And at UFC, I was a huge UFC fan, right? Like I think I wanted to also do that too when I came in, but I noticed that people that don't get involved in the sport or whatever, they have a lot to say.
Yeah.
And then usually the people that are into that experience, like let's say that guy, like maybe he had played football in the past, right? And then he's got a perspective that's a little different from a casual fan.
Yeah.
But then when you watch UFC, there's a difference between being that guy that's like, just freaking knock him out, right? Like
Yeah.
you get so mad, you're like, stand him up, dude. And like once you start doing jiu-jitsu, you're like, oh dude, don't stand him up. Like
Yeah.
because you're noticing all the action.
Yeah, we noticed that a lot too in jiu-jitsu day to day when we have parents on the sidelines.
Oh yeah.
That love to like coach their kids, but when they try that class, I've had this happen multiple times.
Yeah.
They come on the mats, and then after like the first day, like, oh, I'm never telling him or her to do anything ever again because now I know what it's like.
Yeah. I'm gonna hold it right there on that because I know we're gonna bring that subject up again. I'm sure there's definitely gonna be a section where we're talking about some pet peeves. So you had your journey. It started a lot longer. Like I'm a blue belt, you're a brown belt. And I'm looking at journeys, right? One of my favorite things to talk about is my first day on the mat. So could you kind of give me like a little taste of what your perspective was, your experience on your first day in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, there was actually a lot of thought leading up to my first day. But if you want to hear about that, we talk about that later. But my first actual day, walking through the door, getting on the mat, I saw the lead instructor stretching. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I walked in, I signed that waiver, jumped on the mat, and I partnered up with a guy much smaller than me. He was a blue belt at the time, and the typical got worked over story. Like I just had no idea what to do with this guy.
Mhm.
And
When you say that, like, what was the thing that surprised you the most? Like, what that frustrated you in that moment?
I don't know. I guess it's just somebody so much smaller can hold you down, and you can't get up.
Mm,
That's an eye opener for a guy who's never done any sports at all. I've never done any sports. So walking into that, it was what I expected to happen. But when you actually feel it,
yeah.
it's a big deal. It's like, wow, I can't believe it. Like, in my head, that just solidified, like, okay, I have to learn this. This obviously does work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then,
So was it just that one guy? And then you're like, holy crap. Or like, what was like the culmination of experiences? Because I'll show you my perspective on my first day, but like, you had that blue belt, right? Was that your first roll?
yes,
Okay.
he was my first partner. Yes.
How did the rest of the rolls go after that you can remember?
Garbage for me. I got beat up.
Yeah.
The good news is I was kind of expecting that. I just didn't think it was going to be that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of hard headed. So those hard rounds, they really imprinted on my head, and I was just thinking about it all night. And to me, it was not like scare me off type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
It was like everybody was super nice, very helpful. You know, we still have that today, and it just made me want to dive back in for my second day. I don't remember too much more about my first day on the mat besides that one blue belt.
I have like 3 specific roles that I think of, right? So
here we go.
So first of all, it was my first day ever being a first sergeant. It was the first day I ground up.
Really?
Yeah, it was my very first day. The first day that I got the 24-hour phone.
Wow.
And I knew I was going to hold this long term. And I was terrified out of my mind about like missing a call. And so I showed up. This is at our old location. And I remember I walked in. It was actually my kids' first class. It was their trial class. Yeah. And so we had our 2 previous guys that were coaching the teens at the time. And I remember watching them. They seemed to be having fun. My daughter didn't seem like she was having too much fun because she was like really nervous and like super introvert at the time. Ethan was like, oh, it's playtime. Yeah. And I was watching. I was like, I think this could be good for the kids. And then Jag was there, our professor, and he was a brown belt at the time. And I remember he came up to me. He's like, hey, man. He's like, are you interested in jumping on the mats too? And I was like, oh, I can't. I gave him this whole spiel about like, oh, I got this phone. If it rings, I gotta jet out of there. So I was super, super serious about that. And to be honest, I think I was kind of just being a wuss. And in my head, I was like, I don't think I can handle this kind of stuff. Because I was looking at everyone that was on the mat that were adults. And I was like, I might die, dude. Because I remember I saw Ray there.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah, he's a scary looking dude.
He's a scary looking dude, man. Like he's got that like typical like veteran stare that just like, I don't know if this guy's approachable until you get to know the guy. And I just remember seeing him and I was like, dude, that guy's freaking jacked. He's got this big beard. I was like, this guy's freaking intimidating.
Yeah, very stoic face.
Yeah. And like everyone else, they seemed relatively serious, but the kids were loving it. And I was just like, oh, it seems like a really cool vibe. And then Jag like stayed kind of near me during the whole kids class. And then he came back after it was done. He was like, you know how Jag is. Like, he's just so good with his words and the way he approaches people. And he's like, hey, man, I noticed your phone didn't ring one time during class. And I was like, that is true. And he's like, so I'll see you tomorrow. And I was like, crap. I was terrified, dude. And he asked me like what kind of clothes I had. I was like, I can get some shorts. I have some spats. I'm like rash guard, right? And I was like, I already got that kind of stuff. In fact, it was stuff that I use like under clothes during cold weather. I was just like, whatever, I can do that. Throw some fitness shorts on.
Right.
And my first day, as soon as I got in, did like warm-ups and stuff, I didn't know how to shrimp. I didn't know what a freaking bridge was. I was just like copycatting, right?
Yes.
And the first person, it was our original professor and Jag, they were like, roll with this guy. It was Richard Delboa.
Okay.
And Richard was a white belt. I'm brand new, and I had no idea what was going on. It was a no-gi day. And you know how like he started out when he was younger in his journey, he was like really big into wrestling. Like he was like a brawler wrestler, just like freaking because he get a hold of you and it'd just be like, wow.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. And I had no idea what was going on. So I was just trying to get him off me. So I'd like throw him off me basically, and I was just like mortified. I tried not to show it, but I was terrified, dude.
Right.
And he basically gassed me out. That was my first roll. I was like, this guy's so intense. He controlled me like 95% of the time. I had no idea what's going on. I was just trying to survive. And then they passed me over to Jag. And like the first like 5 seconds, he knee barred me. And he was really gentle about it, but I remember I screamed because I was like, what happened? You know, I'm like, damn.
Jag would be the guy to throw like one of the most non-white belt moves. Brand new guy, just to like.
And he was being real gentle about it. Like I remember it didn't even hurt, and he was definitely careful with me, especially like knowing how to do a knee bar now. Like for me, getting knee barred, I was just like, oh, he could have broken my leg if he wanted. That was like my first thought. And then he passed me over to our old professor, and he was like, let's have some fun. And like Chrissy just smashed me to death. And I just remember that first day, I was like, that was one of the most physically miserable experiences of my life. But I can't wait to come back. And I don't know why. I know we kind of talk about that. It's like you don't really know what it is, but you're like, oh, I gotta get some more of this. And yeah, that's kind of how it was for my first day.
So were you nervous about walking in the door the second day?
Second day, I was nervous to walk in probably the first month.
Yeah.
To be honest, because I kept meeting more people.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I meet a new person, I was like worried, like this guy's me a douchebag. That guy looks gigantic. Oh, that's a color belt. What's a color belt? You know, and just I have an idea of what a black belt is, and then I see brown, and I'm like, okay. So I'm like Googling, like everybody else. I'm like, this jiu-jitsu stuff. What is this? And what's the belt structure? Oh, okay, because I did like the other martial arts. Like I did like Taekwondo when I was a kid, right? Like, and I was garbage, right? I competed. I was decent in competition, but at the end of the day, it's not jiu-jitsu. It's not. It's just not. And so I had a very limited perspective on the hierarchy and those kind of things of belts and like what belt levels like mean. And like now that I'm like starting to progress in my journey, it's like, oh crap, like there's a thing there. Like when you get to blue belt, you should know certain things, right? But yeah, it was awesome. I was nervous for sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't nervous when I first met you because you smiled and walked right up to me. The first time I felt nervous ever involving you was when I got my first stripe.
Why?
So, all right. So
I gotta know why.
So the starting, you know how we used to do like warm-up drills, like specific drills. So we're doing like armbar, triangle, armbar. And it was like one of the things we were drilling all the time. You know, like our professor used to like drill it into his smile. And like I actually appreciate it.
Yeah.
I still do that with my class. But we're doing armbar, triangle, armbar. And we had a guy who's no longer with us. I'm not gonna say his name. I'll tell you later. But I did armbar, triangle, armbar on him during a live roll as a no striper, and I nailed it. Like I freaking nailed it.
Okay.
He pulled his arm out and he lifted his leg up, and I was like, oh, then I hooked the leg. I just did exactly what we drilled for like 20 minutes, and then I nailed it. And then here comes our guy. He comes over and he's like, puts a stripe on me, and I was like, I got a stripe. And I remember I was like, oh, I did something good. I did good, you know? And then you walked up to me and you were super chill about it. It was like, this is when you and I first started like really talking more.
Okay.
And you were like, let's see what that first stripe does.
Oh, no.
And I was like, and you freaking like, you were nice about it. Like you still beat me up, but it was like, you know how it is. Like you beat somebody up, but it's not, you could tell the difference between someone just beating you up, but in like the best way possible.
Yeah.
And then someone who's just doing it to hurt you. It wasn't like that. It was like, it was playful, and you're still tapping me to death. In fact, it's no secret. I've told you many times, like you're one of my BJJ mentors, right? You're my big brother jiu-jitsu.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. And we've grown like pretty damn close over the last couple of years.
100%.
But like, I always tell Ann all the time, especially early on, I would tell her, I'm like, okay, because this is how I classified my wins, right? And I'm sure we'll talk about this more. We talk about white belts, but like, I used to tell her, and I distinctly remember being like, she's like, how'd it go? I'm like, Justin tapped me 7 times in 5 minutes. And she's like, damn. And I'm like, it was a bad day. And then I go to the next day, and then it was still only 7 times. And then there's like one day where I'm like, oh, he only tapped 5 times.
Yeah.
And I would just count that as like the biggest win, and that would like literally carry me through the week. And I had that with everybody. Like I had like my little things, but like for you, I was just like, okay, today I was able to like get my guard back when this happened with this guy. And it was just like the best feeling in the world. Those little mini victories.
Yeah, you definitely have to count those as wins. And That's funny you say that because I don't remember those roles with you, but I do know that still when someone gets a stripe, I'll go up to them and be like, let's see what it's gonna do.
Yeah.
And that's not to intimidate people or anything like that. That's more of like congratulations, let's roll with it.
Yeah, and I actually do the same thing. A lot of us do. A lot of us be like, let's see what that's right. You'll hear it all the time.
Yeah.
All right, 3 striper, let's go. Let's see what you got. You know, like, oh, we got that new all right, blue belt, let's go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's dope. I love that. So on the note of that, like on the same lines, why the next topic is why come back for day 2 and beyond?
Whew, man, I think you could put a lot into that, and it definitely probably varies person to person. For me, my day 2 why I come back was people were so nice to me, and I think I wanted to do jujitsu so bad, and I had my mind up made. This was before COVID started. That especially being in California, we had that first 2 week. Like everybody was like, "You're gonna get a ticket if you're driving on the road." I don't know what was true and what wasn't. I had my mind made up before that, and we had that 2 week break. Yeah, and I had just thought about it every day. So even though I went in that first day when it opened back up, that's when I joined. I did have a rough roll the first day, some rough rolls, but the second day, I think I just had my mind up so much that I had to learn it. And I went in there the way most people should, is not scared and intimidated of the people. And I realized they're not there to beat me up; they're there to get better. And I think the one thing I was smart enough to figure out early on was like, I can go in here and get better with these people, and we can all have the same sort of goal. So I think that's what drove me to walk back in that next day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But real quick before I even like go on, what was it like training during COVID? Because I joined after COVID.
Yes.
So
I actually joined the very first day, my first trial. I signed up the first day. We came back. What was the question? I'm sorry.
like, what was it like just during COVID?
Oh, during COVID. Oh, yeah. So it was kind of weird. It wasn't anything different. Luckily, in our neck of the woods in California, it's not so much like mask oriented, and everybody's not so like uptight about the COVID situation at the time. Particularly in our part of the woods. So the worst thing we had to do was walk through, and they were doing the forehead temperatures.
Oh, okay.
That was like the only difference. And then other than that, classes were the same. We're still sweating all over each other. It was the same everything. I didn't have to wear a mask or anything like that. I got lucky in that. I don't know, not to touch anything political. I don't know if I would have participated in classes those days if they had made me wear a mask.
Yeah.
Specifically, I mean, just imagine trying to do jiu-jitsu with a mask over your face. Yeah.
It's like getting mother's milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No thanks. I'm good. Okay. Yeah, that was. I think some thoughts on that. Yeah, I think it's really unique because I was like kind of the back end. Like there's still people. It was like on the back end, but there was still a lot of. You go around and you see people with masks. So for me too, I was like, I'm not rolling with a mask. I knew that. Like when I was going to jiu-jitsu, I was like, I gotta wait. I'll wait. Yeah. But I was really surprised to see that like people are being like smart about it.
Yeah.
Like it's like, dude, if we're gonna get it, we're gonna get it. Really, at this point, like people started to wake up. It wasn't in like the Walking Dead phase of COVID where people are like fighting over freaking toilet paper and stuff like that.
The one thing I could say though that I did notice that I remember is I didn't really, because I joined right when they opened back up, I didn't realize how many people were staying away from the academy still. So it was like first, second, third stripe on my white belt that long before. Oh, wow. And I didn't have like, I had a normal white belt journey. I didn't have like a super short one. And that's when I started seeing how many students were actually at the academy. They started flowing in like months, almost a year after. I actually didn't even meet Professor Jag for a long time because he had some older elderly parents. He didn't want to get sick, so he stayed away from a while. He wasn't, he didn't have to be at that academy like he does now. So,
yeah. The amount of time that guy spends, and I know he's got his own job too, and he's got his family, he's got his parents. He has so much time invested everywhere. I'm just really thankful we have them. All right, so you're a white belt. You're experiencing all the things that comes with white belt, right? Like you're experienced, you got new people, you got new, like, what the heck is going on moments, right? So what was it from your perspective, like your white belt journey?
Yeah, white belt journey was pretty interesting. Had a lot of the same feelings as like not being able to learn all the techniques that were coming my way. You don't have, if you're going frequently, which I did, I've always gone really frequently, but there's pros and cons to that. But one of the cons is like you're learning so much technique that you're not finished learning the first one you learned, and even to this day I feel like you can master the techniques that you've known forever. There's still something to learn about it. So keeping up with the techniques and the information coming in was always hard. I didn't feel like I was getting good because there was guys that were there that were so much better than me, and I was getting destroyed all the time.
Yeah.
And some people I felt like didn't have good intentions, but they weren't mean enough to keep me away.
Yeah.
And you don't feel your progress so much at white belt. You really don't. It's when you're mid white belt, late white belt, and somebody else comes in behind you.
Yeah.
That's when you feel it.
I agree completely.
Yeah. That's when you feel it. It's like a feeling you can't explain, man. When you're able to see that progress.
For me, it was 3-stripe white belt.
Yeah.
At 3rd stripe, I was like, okay, something's happening. And when I look at my white belt journey too, one thing that was really emphasized by you and everyone else, really, especially like we had like Chad and Seb there. Like those were 2 guys that used to be our coaches, and I used to get hounded about defense, like all the time. Anywhere you look, any one of the guys, you would be looking at me, and I know you were one of them for sure. And like, dude, keep working your defense.
Yeah.
What's something that you were told that stuck with you throughout? That was like a major focus point in your personal journey at white belt.
Something that stuck with me. That's a tough one, man. This is going to sound maybe a little silly. It had to do with competition, though. And one thing that stuck with me was when I signed up for my first competition really early at white belt. And who was in that bracket? You'll never guess. It was Callum Bisping, Michael Bisping's son.
Oh, really?
In a Reno competition. Yes.
I did not know that.
It was in a Reno competition. Now, I signed up really early, like the early bird deal or like $80 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was nervous. I was like, I'm new to anything physical. I never played football or anything. This is my first competition. I had a lot of pressure from my dad coming in on this type of stuff, my family. And I saw that name on there, and I was worried. And our current professor at the time looked at me and he said, he's your rank, he's your size, everybody taps the same.
Yeah.
I think that one pops out me the most because that's something that I like to pass on to whoever's thinking about competing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you shared the story with me. We talked about this recently, but can you tell me about that one dude? The Mohawk guy.
Okay.
You gotta share that story. It's too good of a story.
Okay, so I start jiu-jitsu. My dad is like this old school, super old school guy. He's hard. He's like has old school thinking. So when I was growing up, this is what I mean by pressure in a competition. This guy is just, he would tell me all the time, if you get beat up, then I'm going to beat your ass twice as hard, when you get home. And that's just the way he thought. And he was abused as a kid. There's a big backstory to him and why he thinks the way he does. But that was a big thing for me to go into that competition. And my parents were split up, freshly splitting up. And my dad, I was very close to at the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to invite him. I'm going to take the step. I already went and took the step of like doing jiu-jitsu. I'm going to invite him to this first competition. So I go in. I don't know how anything works. I just know what time and mat number I need to be at based off of Smooth Comp, which wasn't even an app at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know anything. I don't know who my opponents are. I'm basically just like a puppy being walked by a professor.
Yeah.
I'm literally a puppy being walked by a professor. And the times on competitions are brutal sometimes. You got to wait forever.
I know that for sure.
Yeah. So My dad's hanging around. He's got a bad back. He's standing. I think he's getting a little flustered. And there's this guy walking around the gymnasium, and he's a big dude. He's muscular. He's my size. I'm a big person, but he's more muscular than me. And he has a mohawk and a shaved head on the sides. He's got tattoos all over his body, all over his head. He's walking around, and my dad, every time I go to my dad before my competition, he's saying swear words, and he's like, I hope you don't have to go against that guy for your first match. I hope you don't have to go against him. Little behold, soon as that first match goes and I get walked up to the mat, he's standing on the other side. It was that guy. And I mean, imagine the nerves, dude. The nerves that you have going into competition in general. And then looking at that guy, you know, I'm a white belt. I don't look at people the same now as I did then.
Yeah.
So when I look over here, I'm like worried. I'm worried from the pressure of my dad. I feel like I'm going to crack, dude. I'm going to fold. Luckily, I got the win. I beat him with the paper slicer choke.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think my dad was pretty proud of that. And then, that was brutal.
That's awesome, though, man. Like, it's funny because I have a very contrasting first experience in my first comp. I think you were there, right?
Yeah.
You had my first one? So I know you know the story, but I'm going to share it just for the sake of people listening. But my first comp, it was if I remember, it was Grappling X. It was in Sacramento. And I remember I was sitting there the week or two before that. That's back when we were doing, like, if we knew we had specific people, like, we were just, like, grinding them. And I really need that. So I was like, oh, yeah, I need to go to the competition prep. And so we're doing it. And, like, we still do it today. But, like, it was cool because, like, all my buddies were competing too, right, at the same time. And it's like, obviously, there's waves of people coming in and coming out of gyms. But the people at the time, I was like, oh, I really want to compete with these guys. Like, I was like, let's do this. And I remember we were there at the comp. And Chad actually had been the one to tell me to do Absolute.
Okay.
And he's like, dude, there's this thing called Absolute. He's like, you're gonna love it, dude. He's like, I did it before. He's like, you're gonna love it. And I'm like, sure, why not, right? And I start Googling it, like, from home after class. And I'm like, oh, I was like, I could potentially be going against, like, a freaking giant, like a juggernaut looking dude, or I could be the big guy. And I was like, let me look at the comp. And so I went on, like, Smooth Comp online. I'm, like, typing away, and I'm like, oh, I outweigh these guys by, like, 30 pounds, 40 pounds. I was like, this is gonna be sick. I was like, because I'm used to getting beat up in the gym. I was like, I might be the big guy. I was like, I'm absolutely doing Absolute. So I signed up for it, and I signed up for my division. And I remember there was two dudes, and they were both from, like, UFC Placerville gym. And so I was like, okay. And I looked at their weights, I looked at their names, so I'm expecting to see them show up. I'm actually looking for the guys. So I'm just like, I gotta at least look at them before I go so I can just get my mind framed.
I think everybody does that.
Yeah.
They have to.
We all do it, man. And I remember I couldn't find them. And when I was looking up on the website, like an hour prior, it was the same names. A couple minutes comes, like, before competition, and my name gets called. So I'm, like, nervous. I'm like, all right, let's do this, dude. And I'm, like, going over there. Evie is competing next to me in the same exact mats.
Oh, man.
So she's on that side of the mats, and she's literally right next to me. She's competing against this girl. As far as I know, Evie has this, like, really tough match, and she loses by, like, a couple points, right? But this match is going on while I do my first Absolute, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and they're like, Jake Roble, calling Jake Roble. And I'm like, who's Jake Roble? And I just see this freaking, like, 200. He actually, when I asked him his weight after the match, he said he weighed in at, like, 275.
The big boy.
The big boy. Big red Viking, like, huge beard. He had, like, the samurai bun thing, but it's this gorgeous red hair. And I'm just like, oh, man, I'm going against the Red Dragon. And, like, he shows up, and he's such a nice guy. And he's like, here, but he's a freaking giant. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so we get on the mat, and the first thing that this guy does, he picks me up and just drops me.
Oh,
and
I remember this.
Yeah, and I remember I looked over at the coach. I don't remember who was coaching me at the time. It was either a professor. It might have been Sev. I can't remember who, but I remember I got dropped, and I looked at him. And I just remember he was looking over at the ref. I was like, what the crap, dude? And I'm like, what's going on? I look over, and Jake is, like, barreling into my chest and just, like, spears me, basically, right? And now we're like, and I just remember it was like sweep for sweep, and then he'd maul me, and he'd pick me up and dump me. maul me. And it was just like the most one-sided massacre of all time. At the very end of that first round, I finally get on top and I'm holding him down. I try to do the red cutter. And right when I started to cinch it, he calls, and the match is over. And I was like, well, that sucks. And I remember I looked over at the scoreboard. He had beaten me by like 15 points. Like, it was so bad. And I remember like my face, I was like, I hurt. And I was like, whatever. And I'm laughing because that's what I do. And I'm like, when I get massacred and I get beat, like I don't know what it is, or if I'm in like a severe amount of pain when I'm competing in something, I laugh hysterically. I can't help it. It's just like my response. That's natural. But I remember I got the mat and I'm like, dude, that was crazy. And I'm going to the coaches and I'm like shaking his hand. And I'm like, I dab up Jake, give him a hug. I'm like, well, that sucks, you know. And I'm like laughing. I get on the mat, or off the mat, and I look over and Evie's right there, and she's off the mat. Her match is over, and Evie's like boohoo crying. And I was like, oh, what happened? Because I'm in dad mode, and I'm like,
she was worried about you.
Yeah, I was like, are you okay? And she goes, are you okay? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, Dad, your face. And I like touched my face. Remember, it like stung, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And I walk over. Your wife is there, Karen, a couple other ladies. They're like hugging Anne, and Anne's like, are you okay? And I was like, what do you mean? What happened? And oh, by the way, just before my match started, Nate Diaz showed up, and he was with his posse. And I remember during the first match, I caught a couple glimpses of him during the match, and I was like, well, this is embarrassing. There's a UFC fighter right here, you know? And I remember I got up to everyone at the gym, like, dude, you good? And I'm just like, what? And you guys were like, dude, go in the bathroom, look at your face. And I remember like the lid under my eye was like basically ripped, and I had like a cut going down my cheek, and it was all bruised, and it was starting to get like red and swollen. And I was just like, I look like a robot chicken, dude. Like, I just thought it was funny. But then I had to go for another match like 4 minutes later with him because it was just the two of us. Come to find out, as soon as Jake joined, his other teammates quit. The absolute, because they're like, I'm not going to get shit. And I didn't realize that. We had a much more competitive second round, but I do remember at one point we were like rolling off the mat, and he rolled under the table, and I was upside down, like almost on top of the table, like I had flipped into it. And I remember them like trying to catch the monitor that they're doing the scores and stuff, and like the computer. And I remember that guy was judging it from the sideline. He was like, "Oh, what the heck, man?" He's like, "Guys." Like, and them dragging us out. And every time one of us would like trip each other or sweep each other, or he'd slam me or whatever it was, I was on that. You just hear a ton of people, oh. And I remember like after the fact, I actually like saw Nate and his buddies, and they're like, that was a crazy match, dude. And I was just like, a lot better than the first one, right? And I still lost by a bunch of points, but that was my first comp experience. It was definitely not the same way it went for you. But yeah, I figured it was just worth bringing up.
Yeah, I did lose one. That was my match I lost. Was on my. It was weird. Jiu-Jitsu is weird. Like that one. Do we know if that Jake gentleman does he still train? Do we know that?
So I kept up with him over the years. As far as I know, he still rolls out there. He's had some super fights. I've watched him do some super fights. Something on the beach, something like that. But it was like, I think it was locals like Sacramento or just past. But I've kept up with him. We're in touch on Instagram. Great dude. Like he's such a nice guy. Meeting his family even afterwards, I was like, I freaking love this dude, man. Like met his wife and kids, and
it's crazy how jiu-jitsu unifies like that. Like usually there's after a match, like it's all just business when it's on the mat. So afterwards, everybody's usually pretty cool. I mean, like it takes mad courage, I'll say, for lack of better words, that I could say to go in against somebody like that, especially on a first comp. And something Professor Andrew said to me one time that really set in was like, it's not always about who's best, it's about who's left. Because jiu-jitsu is a hard thing to get through. So I think that's part of why there's always mutual respect when you compete with somebody. So
did you ever find that you had like a mental block when you're competing?
Like I froze up?
No, well, it doesn't have to be. It could be that. But like, have you ever had it where like there was something to get over in competition versus when you're training?
Still. I don't know if I'm answering your question the right way, but still when I compete, I still struggle with like conserving my energy or using my energy the right way. Um, that's hard. That's kind of why I believe in training all night if I can in the gym, is like train when you're tired, and then when you're tired, keep training, because jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, you start using your jiu-jitsu more when you're tired,
For sure.
and not your muscles. So that's one thing I think is just, that's my only big hurdle, is energy
Conservation.
yeah, conservation.
Yeah, for sure.
Going in and doing the competitions, it is nervous, right? When you get on, when you step on the mat, all that goes away. I feel like I've done enough now where I don't really feel nervous about who my opponent is or what's going on. I think my nerves come, ironically, because it's the problem with my energy is like the nerves, but like that's what I worry about most when I go into a competition, is am I going to be able to pace myself the right way?
To your point, like for me, when I get on the mat, it's too late to be nervous.
Yeah,
and it's something just kicks, like it's like it shuts that valve off.
Yeah,
and the nerves don't flow anymore. But my thing that I've noticed over time, that I still probably should test myself continuously in competition, is the urge for me to go 100.
Yeah.
Like if I get someone in a position I'm going for a sub, I'll find that I'm like, and this is my experience with competition, with the exception of the choke that I put on that one kid in IBJJF, because I was like, I'm not letting go. Like in my head right there, I was in the right headspace. But I found that I'll hold back on aggressiveness, and then S to my detriment, because then I get smashed by a dude that is going 100, that is mentally prepared. And I had to learn that early on. I competed quite a few times at white belt. I did my one blue belt comp, but like I'm looking at that as probably my biggest challenge when it comes to competition. It's like, dude, you got to let go and just like and complete the action, right?
Yeah.
I know you had a really good discussion with us in your last lunch class that you ran, where we sat down with everyone. We're kind of talking about that, like the difference between the training room and then competition, and then let's say like a real life scenario, and how you need to train right in order to be effective in those other two realms.
Yes.
When it comes to using your jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So I still do it too. With the way I treat people on the mat, sometimes you don't want to hurt people. You don't want to roll with any sort of bad intention when you're in your academy, right? You guys are my brothers, my sisters, my family. Really, you guys are my family. Ground Up is my family, so I want to maintain that relationship there.
For sure.
But some things come, like I'm not gonna dig my knee in a knee on belly on like you or anybody else in the training room, like I would in the street, for example.
Right.
But the problem is like sometimes I find myself finding knee on belly in a competition, and because I'm so used to not doing it to my teammates, I'm not putting the same sort of pressure that I should in the competition. Same thing with the submission. When things start popping, like if I heard something pop on you, like I'm automatically letting go. I'm worried about you.
Especially in the gym, you're like, oh,
I'm worried. Yeah, accidents happen, man. I'm worried about that. So,
because you kind of told me that too about your last comp that you had, like
both submissions popped, and I wanted to let go because I previously talked to the guy. I'm going to stand right next to him in the bullpen.
Right.
Cool dude, everything like that, right? But again, business is business. Like this dude, if I would have, he had his elbow popped and he went into the next round. Okay, so if I didn't let go, if I let go of that submission, I could have not got the submission. I could have lost the match.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and it's a mutual risk.
Yeah.
You guys both. Is. That's what the waivers are for. That's what the admission is for. And you're reading the fine print, right?
Yeah.
And it's definitely something I know our gym talks about. Is like, dude, we tap quickly, submit slowly, right? We make sure to do that in training, so you can still have the lifestyle that you live outside of the gym, and you can go to your profession, still take care of your family, play with your kids, right? So none of us wants to get hurt, but there is definitely a different element to that when you get into the competition.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Not even just hurting people, like submissions. It's just everything, like following positions up. If we do a scissor sweep, people like to tip them over and then reset right to their back. Well, follow that up with the position. Get them out, get your hooks, follow through with the entire move so that it's as close to dialed in as possible when you need it.
I know that's on that subject, talking about that with the kids and teens. That's a big one that I know all of us are really good about doing. Like something as simple as like they get the technique or the drilling involves, let's say the completion of the technique is getting in mount, and you see kids that they just happen to get their knee on, but there's no posts,
Yeah.
there's no hooks,
Right.
and then we're like, dude, where are your hooks at? You know,
Yeah.
like why? Or you got the bump and roll, but why are your hands on the ground?
Right.
You know, those kind of things. I'm glad we do that. We instill that early on for these young folks, but the emphasis that we've had on the white belts, especially, I think that's to their benefit for sure. I mean, it's clearly to their benefit, but a lot of them, I don't think necessarily see it until they get to a, more progressed journey, and they're like, oh, now I see the importance of it.
Right. And that's going to be, like you said, progressed journey. Part of their journey is that's how we learn, right? I mean, all we could do as coaches is preach based off our experiences, which is part of the reason why I compete. I think that's important for me to do. I'm not like a crazy competitor where I have hundreds under my belt or anything like that, but I make sure to compete at every rank. And win or lose, at least I can walk away with something and speak from that perspective when I'm teaching a class.
So speaking of teaching class, I know you and I have similar starts to like coaching and like getting our first classes under our belt at blue belt. What was your blue belt journey like? How was it being a blue belt?
Blue belt was probably my favorite belt. I think it might have been my favorite.
Yeah.
If you look at my blue belt on my little rack, my blue belt is the most faded, worn out. Like, I don't know. I just see a lot of work that went into that belt. I had some moves under but as far as skill, I had some moves under my belt that I could work with. I was pretty good at some stuff. A lot of refining to do, still a lot of refining to do, but that's when I started coaching, and that's when my family got involved with jiu-jitsu. And then that is when my life really turned towards jiu-jitsu, and I started going hard on it, way harder. White belt, I was just a hobbyist. Blue belt, I was lucky enough to have that opportunity to get involved in kids' classes, and that's where bonds started getting built, was at blue belt.
Yeah. Would you say that the introduction of you getting put in that role and you're starting to lead those classes, do you think that helped with your progression as a practitioner?
Yes.
Yeah. What was it that really like stood out for you
100%
about that?
Still to this day, it's the same answer to this day at coaching. It helped my role as just being a helper coach at blue belt and like progressing my own game was this, is I have to pay more attention to what my professor is telling kids to do, right? Which a lot of kids class moves I still use. We all
for
use.
Sure. Yeah, without question.
And then that's when you start to realize like the fine details, because a kid will mess up a technique every which way you can imagine. Okay. And then now I have to pay extra attention to what my professor is telling his kids, so that when I go and help that kid, I can make a fix. Right. So and then naturally when you teach kids classes at blue belt, and then you go right into your own adult class afterwards, and you go to hit like a key lock or something, you're like, oh, I just fixed this on the kids. I got to do this. I got to do this. I gotta, like, the details.
Yep. I found that too. It was being able to understand the why for me. Yes. I was like, oh, okay. Like, cause I can hear them articulate it, whether it's you or you have the other coaches that were teaching it, or you'd have the professors. And we're lucky enough at Ground Up where we have like these stellar black belts that we have as guests, and they're welcomed like family. We're welcome to their gyms as families. It's a beautiful relationship we have with these other gyms, and just hearing all the different perspectives, I could know all that I think I can know about, let's say, like a specific sweep, and then you have someone like Andrew who comes in and he's like, all right, I'm gonna show you, we're gonna go over butterfly, and you're like, I have never butterfly like that, and I'm a butterfly guy, like I love butterfly,
right?
But like looking at him and how he does it, and then you look at how Gus does it, and how you do it, and how I do it, I'm like, oh, I can blend this.
Yes, 100%. You build it for your own game.
Yeah, and when you get to the point where you're articulating it to a student and you're like leading a class, like I know I got the fundamentals. You lead all sorts of class in our gym, like you're leading the way there, and you've been like an anchor point for our academy for so long. like being able to articulate it to the people that are learning that day, and then you can not only tell it why, but you have the experience, you have the knowledge, and then you can help them understand better. I think that's like been the most addicting part for me. One, being a helper coach, and then like being like your uki, or like being whoever's uki, and then helping to teach the technique one night, or that I got my fundamental opportunity, right? And I'm there and I can teach things in a way that I know I would have understood it better when I was first learning it.
Yeah, 100%.
And then seeing them win, like seeing them have those successes, that's like the ultimate addiction.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just so
it's
rewarding.
Crazy, man. That is the most rewarding thing about, especially when the kids, like, you know, I guess the best way to do is call her by nickname Bones.
Bones, baby.
Dude,
that kid's savage.
When someone like that comes in with no really experience in grappling at all, and then they do, or like we have another one in our class, and I just look at you and you're gonna know who she is, who always dominates the 6 p.m. class. She moved up from that smaller class.
Yes.
The kids like that, it's like you can't believe that you were the one that taught them that.
Yeah,
it's super impactful. It's very impactful.
Especially like Bones is a great example, because like you get to influence and assist them, right, and help them to grow, and you're giving them the tips, and you're helping them on the side. If they get discouraged, you're talking, positivity into them, lifting them up. You're not treating them like a nursery,
Yeah.
right? But you're being real. But
Yeah.
you're being encouraging. You're turning it into something that's worthwhile sharing, and then you see them do it in competition, and you see them doing it in a class, and you're just like, dude. She's one in particular that, like, I look at the relationship that she has with the coaches, especially with you, because you've been there every step of the way with her.
Yeah.
And just to see how fired up she is.
Yeah, I love it, man.
Dude, it's so sick. And that other one we're talking about,
I just don't want to say kid's name on here, but
yeah, what a savage, dude.
Insane, man.
And we talked about it too. There's some kids and even our younger class, like the younger age kids, like there's some kids in there that it's like, I know you talk about one in particular where it's like just breaking past this one thing that I know he's gonna be a savage, but I gotta try to break that habit, or that behavior, right? And it's just really cool to see people do that. And I know from what I've seen with adult white belts, you give them like some help with something, and then you look over and you see them dominate with that, and they kind of look up, and you're like, yeah, dude, that's it right there. It gets the blood pumping, dude.
It does. And while we're on that white blue belt range question, I would like to add that blue belt, I mentioned my son earlier, was very impactful for me in jiu-jitsu. And I think this is a major reason why I stuck with jiu-jitsu, is because I walked into his life, obviously after he was born, after he was old enough to be walking and stuff. So I didn't know how to do dad stuff very well. I just kind of got planted there in that situation. I fell in love with my wife, obviously, right? And I accepted him with her. But when Professor Jag asked how old he was and told me, "Oh, you still have time to make an impact. Oh, you still have time to make an impact." And he's looking me in the eyes, telling me this with a smile. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. How is it going to make an impact? And then that is when those moments of driving to jiu-jitsu while my wife Renee was still at work, and just listening to music and cracking jokes with each other and like taking selfies when we got to the gym, that was when I went from like, okay, here's my wife and her son, and now he's my son. Like
you started to kind of like build the bridge, right?
I built the bridge to like, that's when I started viewing him as like, he is my kid.
Yeah.
Like, this is my son, and I'm going to make this happen with him. And even though now he's like been there so much, the things have changed, but I have a lot to thank for my son Rylan for, he spends a lot of time at BJJ. So
yeah. And like, I see you guys blossoming the relationship over the years, and it's so cool how jiu-jitsu affects like the family dynamic. Like, I used to have a point, and this is really, it started at white belt with me a little bit, but at blue belt for me is when I really started to like punch through that weird barrier between me and my kids. So like, my kids are my biological kids, but being active duty through the majority of my time in jiu-jitsu so far, I'm retired now, but like, when I was in the military, I was working very long hours. I was
Yeah.
very unavailable. Early on in their lives, I was sent away for whether training or mission, and there was just so much time away from the kids. So like when I would come home, I would find in their early childhood that like their life has moved forward, right?
Yeah.
And then when I come in, I'm now trying to fit into their rhythm. And even here, like we moved, it was a fresh move. We moved out of nowhere. I got 9 weeks to show up to California. And so we kind of like uproot the family, and now the kids are trying to get used to life. They're busy.
Right.
And I was very much absent. So the jiu-jitsu provided that same thing. Like I reminisce while you're telling the story of you and Riley like, coming into work and like, or coming into the gym, and like those moments, you don't notice how big of a seed is planted until it really grows into that tree. But like my daughter, I remember looking at Evie, and she would start like, it almost felt like she was almost like emulating my why. Like for me, a lot of it had to do with mental health. I really needed to have a release from what I was doing as a first sergeant, and I would be coming into the gym with her, and she'd be like, "School was rough." And I'm like, "Oh, well, what's going on?" And she's like, "Well, I had all this drama, blah." She'd spew it out, and then she'd be like, "I just need to go and get it out on the mats." And I'd sit there next to her, and I'd be like, "Okay." I'm like, "Well, let's do that," And it just, but then you have those conversations. How were your roles? How was this? How was that? And then it opens up into something else. And the same happened with Ethan. I think both of their personalities were developed in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
that's not a bad thing, man, because we have some of the finest people I've ever met in my life in jiu-jitsu.
Agreed.
I could go deep on that one. What you were saying, though, I understand about being away from your kids while you were in the military. When I was blessed enough to go to your retirement ceremony, that was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. No doubt. I was super blessed to be there, but I noticed they got gifts from you when you retired. They got like an iPad, or I forgot what it was.
I think it was like iPads. Like,
it was just like a little gift about like a thank you to from you to them. And I was like, man, I guess they really did deserve that, because
you had to go through all that
recognition for all that. Yeah,
it's just like when you go up for a retirement ceremony. Like one of the, in my opinion, I think it's one of the most important things. A lot of people end up. I'm gonna let that dog out of there. Yeah. I think a lot of people, they end up looking at the retirement ceremony and they see the certificates and they get bored. I mean, I did it as a young troop and stuff like that, but the importance of having a family that's willing to gut it out with you, that's like massively huge.
Yeah.
And I haven't had that same experience until it's my turn. And when you have it and it's your turn, then it really like the perspective changes fully, because then you're there and you're like, oh yeah, like come on up here. Like you get excited to show up and recognize your family for the sacrifice, because without them, you probably wouldn't be able to get through what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of broken families, and like I'm just thankful that like mine's not broken right now. Like it's broken, it's fractured many times. I'm gonna be honest, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do that. But man, again, back to like the jiu-jitsu part, there's so many great things that came from that. Like even Ann and I, like we have like jiu-jitsu dates.
Yeah.
Like if we know the kids are home and they got homework, or they're just too tired from their sports that they do, and like, yeah, you guys go without us, we're like, jiu-jitsu date, and it just becomes a thing. It's the greatest feeling.
Yeah, and it's easy to talk about too when we go on vacations and stuff. It's like, man, me and my family, my kid, everybody, we're like, dude, what if this happened, I did this, I did that, what are we gonna learn, who's coming this week? There's just so much common ground there. So it's definitely a relationship builder a lot. I think that's part of what keeps you in it so long.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously blue belt super impactful for us.
Yeah.
So
big one for me.
So coming from someone who is training in preparation, developing himself in preparation, and like really just trying to change my mental focus on how to approach the next level. Like for me, the next level is going to be purple. You've gone through that already. You've been a brown belt yourself. What's your experience been, and what are some of the more important things that you've discovered or gone through in the upper belt, I guess, arena?
Yeah. So blue belt, you've got a pretty solid game, which you do. You have like your style of jiu-jitsu is pretty much developed. Once you hit purple, things that I notice, things that are a little different is people come at you like purple belt.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's going to be different for like your academy, your team, but like when visitors come in and stuff and they look at you, they're looking at a purple belt, not a blue belt.
Mhm.
And I think that's where that mindset changed. When I look at a white and a blue belt, I kind of know what to expect. Once you look at that purple belt, you're like, okay, what am I going to have on my hands here? You know, so that's one thing that I feel like changed a lot. And then people start coming to you more for answers on what to do and stuff. Now that won't be such a huge deal for you because you got your fundamentals class and you're getting used to like teaching that. And I feel like you're going to get through that just fine. You're a very smart person. You're smarter than I am.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are the big differences. And then refining timing as far as skill goes. The purple belt is like you got this game, and now you're gonna make this game like tight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
How about the transition to brown belt? What was that like for you?
Whew. Unexpected for one.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't really that nervous to get my brown belt, honestly. I did pretty good in all my blue belt competitions. I did quite a few competitions at blue belt. So purple belt only did one. I got hurt. I don't know, man. I guess what I'm saying is I had enough experience, competitive experience, and just visitors coming in at purple belt that I was already doing well against higher ranks enough to where I wasn't that nervous to get my brown belt. I feel like purple belt was more nerve-wracking than brown. My blue belt, I didn't feel like I felt like I had to grow into it when I got it, if that makes sense. And I did that very well, I felt like. And then I felt like I grew into the purple belt. But I kind of felt like I was already grown into my brown belt once I got it. So, even though I had a short run at purple belt. I don't know why I felt that way.
Yeah. It's curious when I look at that perspective and I see folks that jump to the next belt, right? Like, not necessarily jump, but like you still got to earn your way there. But like when they make the transition is what I'm trying to say. And I look at them and I'm always thinking like, man, what's it like? Like I remember the last promotion I got promoted at the same time as Greg. And I was looking at my bar and my bar's full. I'm looking at his bar is full. And he's like, how you feeling? And I was like, I actually feel pretty decent. Like I feel fine. Cause like you and I had a conversation, it was a couple of years ago now, where I was still pretty fresh. I might've been like a one stripe. I don't know, the time's kind of irrelevant at this point, but it was a couple years ago. And we had a conversation somewhere along the lines of like the future and what it looks like. And I remember you telling me, you're like, I'm going to roll with you like you're a purple belt from now on.
Yeah.
Just so you know that. Like, I'm going to treat you like a purple belt. So just get used to it, man. We're going to be there with you. You said that in like so many words. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I'll be all right. I got people that are going to develop me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be open. There's no pride at blue belt. Like for me, I was at blue belt. This is my first taste of the training wheels coming off. So I was like, oh, this is the next level of suck. And I mentally prepared myself for the time that comes whenever I get my purple. It's going to be the same thing. It's just another level of suck that I need to get accustomed to for one. And I need to continue to grow, right? But I remember sitting there in that promotion looking at Greg and I was like, I bet you're feeling it more than me. I was like, I might feel some pressure, but I ain't feeling that kind of pressure.
I think some of it too, you don't have to like mentally gear yourself for like a worse level when you go to purple belt. You're rolling, we have the same team, we're rolling the same way. I think as long as you're focused on personal development in your game, you don't have to like stress the belt color. The belt color is up to our professors to give us people in charge, right? And they know better than we do if we're ready because they've been through it. I mean, if anybody hasn't gone and looked at Professor Jag's bio on the website,
you got to read that thing.
You got to read that, and then you tell me that, and you cannot tell me that guy doesn't know when we're ready for the ranks. Right? You can't tell me that. He knows.
And the type of people that we have, like the other professors that we're blessed enough to have exposure to, right? Like when they come and they pour into us too, you're like, I feel very well taken care of, and I feel very secure in the position that I'm in, because I don't feel like I have to determine it for myself. Right. Like I know that they got it, it's in their hands. And I think that's probably why I'm so comfortable.
Yeah.
Is just because of that. And I got to ask you this question. Everyone's answer doesn't really matter, but it's always the question to ask: gi or no gi?
Oh, dude.
I already know your answer, but I'm gonna ask it anyway.
Gi.
Yeah, baby.
Yep. Has to be gi. I think both are good.
Mhm.
You got to be able to do both. I think there's more crossover, more overlap if you train gi to go into no gi and be able to do okay. Does that make sense? Did I say that right? I just feel like we've experienced it a bunch of times. People who aren't used to rolling in the gi, it's like they're grabbing it. Well, that can happen.
Yeah.
You're gonna get grabbed. I mean, if how many bathroom fights have you seen where someone grabs their clothes?
Yeah.
Like a million, right? I mean, they don't know what to do with it, but we do.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't want to undercut no gi by any means. I think no gi is important.
And it's fun. Like it can be a blast.
It is very fun. Yeah. I feel like the gi is more technical. If you want to have a more rounded game, you got to do both. Yeah. Yeah. That's all I feel.
And I do like how in our academy we make the distinction and the way to make grips. Like, let's say you're doing arm drag, it's like, well, no gi, you would grab like this.
Yeah.
You know, and like if we're doing no gi, you can hook like this. You can club the neck. You can do all these other things. But like I do no gi stuff in gi. You know, and it's cool to have that stuff cross over. But I do find that gi's better in my opinion. I just think it's better.
I like it. I like that I sweat more. I don't know, there's something about like it just feels like for me it's like when I go to work, this is my uniform, dude, I'm throwing this uniform on. I mean, this jiu-jitsu is what I do now. Here it is.
There's something to be said about how in gi, I think personally that gi translates better to real world scenarios, because I don't know how many people fight naked or they have to take their shirt off. That's just like a dude bro thing that rarely happens unless you're getting in a fight at a pool or in the beach or whatever. Like the possibility and let's say the likelihood of your gi training to be full on applied versus no gi training, like yes, it could still work if you're doing no gi training, but like there's something to be said that when you have someone that's just dangerous and you're holding them down because you're a no gi guy, and you can apply your chokes and your breaks and all that stuff like that, but if they got a shirt, they have a hoodie, they got a jacket, like I'm gonna choke this dude unconscious. And if I can't by just force, unless I'm using a grip to hold them like a gable grip or something, and I'm connected to my partner or my opponent now in the real world, I could utilize their clothing to further subdue them. Like that's I think it also protects you more to be able to have that level of training. And I know there's some folks in certain arenas that'll especially like committed no-gi guys, there's a big difference there. But we also see like the benefit of going on like a sabbatical, so to speak, like to where you're seeing, like you're getting exposed to a certain thing, but then you still bring it back up to the gi. Like a good example is Ray. Like Ray had a spiritual journey where he wanted to like live no gi for a while, and I know I'm gonna crack that can open when I talk to him in the next episode. But like looking at like Ray, for example, for those of you that are listening, he's one of our training partners at the gym. He's been with us for a long time. Ray went on this sabbatical for no gi, learned a lot with like leg locks specifically, and he brings it back, and it was just a different element of the game. And you have someone that you're training with, and they're doing strictly one thing, or maybe occasional. Like I'm not really big into no gi. I have no shame in saying that. But whenever I go no gi, like I see a big difference in his game in no gi. But the way he was able to translate a lot of his techniques he learned in his little journey, and applying it to the gi, it's been like really huge for me too as a training partner. But yeah, definitely they're both important. But
one thing I do when I try to teach a technique, like there's lots of techniques that we teach in the gi that you can use no gi, and it's our job as instructors to point out like, look at the lack of gi grips I used on this technique. Like, just keep this in mind. You know, if you go to a no gi class, you can use this one.
Yep, for sure.
You know, and I got a lot of respect for people who do just no gi too. I mean, if I look at them and I know they train on no gi only, and there's some other idiot out there starting to fight.
Good luck, dude.
My money's on that no gi guy, dude. He's gonna beat that ass
for sure.
He's gonna beat that ass.
And they're gonna do it doing some of the craziest techniques you'll ever see.
Yeah.
It's like, that's crazy, dude.
You're not gonna know what's going on.
Yeah. So what's your favorite submission?
Dude.
And I'm gonna say, let's break it down in 3 different questions. Okay. So first one was your favorite sub.
What's my favorite sub?
Yeah.
Can I ask you what you think it is first?
Your favorite sub?
I know what you're gonna say. I have a feeling.
I don't think it's a wrist lock.
No, that's what I thought you were gonna say.
No, I actually don't. That's why I said it first. I knew you'd think I'd say that, but I just know that, like, so you're an opportunist, right? So like, if I'm pushing myself and you're like, all right, you're basically begging me for the wrist lock, because I do that all the time. So for those of you who never seen me and Justin roll, I put myself in dumb positions sometimes to where my elbow has no way out, and then he will absolutely learn me in that moment and be like, I'm going to teach you a lesson here, and he'll get me with the wrist lock, and I appreciate it, and I love it. It's actually helped me big time in my rolls. Your favorite sub? If I had to guess?
That's a bad position to put you in, because it's hard for me to think of my favorite sub, but I guess I could throw one out there.
I almost want to say the bread cutter.
Maybe it's in the top 3 for sure.
Okay.
I think if I had to name one in the gi, those bow and arrow chokes are badass, dude. I love
the bow and arrows. That's one of the most satisfying.
There's different variations, the different spots to hit them from. I think that might be one of my favorites in the gi. Yeah. Mine
is easily, hands down, the baseball bat choke, because I have like 1,000 ways of doing them. I've obsessed about it. It's definitely the baseball bat. If I were going to give it 2, I'd probably say a loop choke.
Yeah.
Loop chokes for sure. And third's got to be the Kanto choke.
I think Kanto chokes are my top 3 too. I think probably. Yeah, that's a tough question to answer, but I think bow and arrow in the gi. I think no gi, like my favorite submission. I do like arm bars a lot. I like arm bars. I like when people try to roll out of them and hitchhike out of them, and like trying to figure out which positions I can hit them from. Those are fun. And then no gi world. Yeah.
I don't know if I probably have to say the Ezekiel and no-gi, just because I like locking up the Ezekiel choke and no-gi. But I'm a big fan of like the necktie, the Japanese. Yeah. Okay.
3-part question.
It's a 3-part question. So that was the first. What's your favorite sweep? Oh, I literally gonna ask you this just for you.
Oh, God. The scissor sweep.
Scissor sweep all day, man.
It just works.
I already knew the question was going to be answered that way. If anyone wants to learn a scissor sweep, just go to Justin, because that's a freaking hard thing to stop. I got to go butterfly sweep for me. It's my favorite. I've developed that so deeply into my game.
It's a good one. You can use gi and no gi.
Yeah. What's your favorite like guard like position that you like to work out of?
Ooh. It's a tough one. I think like my favorite guard to work out of. Ooh, boy. I guess just close guard. Basic close guard is my way to go.
Nice.
Yeah. I think I feel like I have the most control there. I like to switch between closed and like a good open guard with my feet in the hips, good pocket grips. Those two, I find myself there a lot. I don't really like getting into like the too fancy stuff. I do like a few fancy like moves, the samurai rolls and stuff like that. I like doing those things. I don't know if I would use it in like a competition, but I like to know it. I like to be aware of them.
Yeah.
But as far as like actually using it and working it, like bulletproof would be those 2.
Okay, right on.
You?
I'm like in a weird transition, because I used to think half guard was the way to go for life. And then I was like, okay, well, I like introducing the knee shield. I like working out of the knee shield. And then recently it's been like butter half and open guard. I don't know what it is. I think I know why the open guard for me is, because for me, I want to develop it further. And so I'm in that point where I'm obsessing over it. And that kind of leads to like the next topic is like, what is your favorite way to progress? Like, what is the thing that you've done that works for you that helps you to be able to jump to the next level?
Okay, good question. That one I can answer easily. One is when I learn a move of the day, I always try it that day.
Yep.
I always try the move of the day. I might try it for 2 or 3 days. And if I get one that feels really good, like I say, say, you teach me a move of the day, right? And then I hit it that day, and I just do it like smooth, and it's just right, and it feels right. Then I will chase that one for a long time till I master it. I will give that a chance for a while, right? I'll have a few, like a couple sweeps, a couple submissions, a couple different things in my head that I want to work every day. Okay? And then I'll always try the move of the day. That's my answer.
I know literally the last class I sat in that you taught, that was your message. You're like, dude, do the move of the day.
Yeah.
Go for it. Try it. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
And I know it's sticking with a lot of people, and it's nice that I know there's multiple people that talk about it, but to hear it in all the classes, to see that there's a consistency there where we're trying to encourage people to, like, dude, if you're gonna learn this technique, try it. Like, do your best to learn it. And I know for me, one of the things that helped me out with my progression is I pick something that I am just dog water at.
Yeah.
And I'm going to force myself to learn in that position. Like my open guard versus baby blue belt open guard, Jason, like is
light years
like,
different.
Oh dude, it's so different. And I it's almost like laughable when you look back on that. Cause like, I remember there was a point where I was trying to first develop my open guard because I never played with it.
Yeah.
And I remember I rolled in the same day with you and Ryan, and you guys just literally put your hands on my knees and like walked around. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I was like, I actually realized that I don't know what to do. It would work with like white belts and blue belts and stuff, but then I get to like the upper belts rolling with me and I'm like, oh, I don't have any answers in this position. And so I obsessed about it. And like, I'm still going to continue to have to do it because it's never going to be a point where I'm like, I got it, I'm down.
Yeah.
But to know that I can feel confident in that position, that's like my biggest gauge. And I know we've shared those kind of thoughts. It's like, you got to keep going at it. You got to keep pressing, because one of the things that you just mentioned too, and we've heard it 1,000 times over, is you're going to learn so much more than you're going to remember.
Yeah.
And I think it's encouraging in that regard, because there's a lot of people that get discouraged, to get caught up in like the mental battle with jiu-jitsu, and they wonder, should they go? Like I remember we had a guy, he asked you the same thing. I'm not going to say his name, but like we've had a guy in our gym that not too long ago, I think it was within like the same day, he asked us both like, so when's a good time for me to call quits, right?
Yeah.
And it's I remember when I first heard that, I was like sad. I was like, oh man, like don't quit, dude. But like it made me reflect on when I almost quit. Like,
I've almost quit a bunch of times.
Yeah. I know 2 weeks in, I limped into the house, and this is before Ann started. She's like, how was it? And I was like, I don't know if I can handle this. And she's the one who actually told me to go back. She's like, you're going to go back tomorrow. Don't quit.
That's good. I will say this. I'm not going to say like too much, but there's been times deep into my jiu-jitsu journey where I thought about quitting for various reasons. It's a hard thing to stick with. The rewards are, of course, way outweigh the negatives, right? There's a few negatives, right? This is combat sport. You're going to get hurt a little bit. That's the big one.
Yeah.
Like those are the reasons. Like sometimes that's the reason why I'm like, man, can I do this forever? You still feel that, but yeah, you just, no matter what, you got to jump back on that horse, and you will not regret it.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing I wanted to touch on that you said too is you all choose something that I'm dog water. I mean, you're not, you feel like you're trash at it. That's important for people to do, I think, to lead to your last question, I think, is just because you're not good at it doesn't mean give up on it a month in, 2 months in, 3 months in. I think you should learn it enough to where you land what you get what you're going for, and then decide whether it fits into your game or not.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to know it, right? You got to know. You got to be aware of it. It'll help you read when people are doing it to you.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's really important. How are you going to build a game with an arsenal? With those bullets you never put in the mag, type of thing. I'm saying. So
it's a solid point.
Yeah.
So speaking of more progression stuff, and like this isn't necessarily tailored at progression, but I know it assists with progression. But can you kind of touch your perspective on like the value of cross training?
Yeah, I think there's a high value in cross training. We get you. The obvious thing everybody who trains jiu-jitsu would say would be, your timing is better. When I roll with you, we know what to expect when we roll with anybody in our gym. We know how the roll is going to go if we roll with them at least once before. We have an idea. When you go to cross train, I like it because there's not as much pressure as a competition. I don't ever feel nervous when I go to cross train, at least. I'm sure people do, but that's okay. But you're going to learn how to bulletproof some of your game against, it's just going to get tighter against somebody you don't know.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And I think it's cool. I've picked up things from other people and in cross training situations, and I've also made friendships in cross training, and I think it's really big. I think networking's been one of the biggest thing that I noticed with like cross training. I've gone to open mats, or like we travel up, hang out with Andrew, or up in Rockland too, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to see people, and then you kind of, it's almost like you're just adding to your camaraderie, you're adding to the community in a way that, like, being at a local like freaking gym where you're just pushing iron, and then, all right, dude, I'll see you Tuesday. We'll hit back and buys. It's something that translates into your personal life. Like, I've made a lot of friends, and it's really cool to just bump into them in the community, and knowing that we all have a common thing that we all share, and then we also get to train with each other. Like, and hopefully, like, that's something that we can continue to do throughout our time, because it would suck to not challenge yourself in that regard, and it would suck to not get to experience that next flavor of training, because like I'm with you 100%. There's things that I have gotten pretty decent at in our gym, and then we go somewhere else and it works somewhere else. You're like, oh, good. Right. And if it doesn't work, you can go back, like, this guy did this one thing.
Yes.
How do I work this out? Right. It forces you to level up.
100%. And then another thing about that too is we're blessed at our gym because we have, in my opinion, top of the line professors. Another difference you're going to get though is if you're just a white belt stuck in your gym forever, during white belt, blue belt, you just stay there, and you might not figure out, like you said, the flavor of jiu-jitsu. Right? We're blessed because we have different flavors in our gym, but if you have like one instructor and he teaches you everything from you don't compete or anything, you're white to whatever belt.
Like, this is our strict curriculum.
Yeah, you're gonna miss out on jiu-jitsu details, flavors, that light bulb that somebody said differently that makes that move click for you, right? So I think that's an important part of it too.
For sure. And even just like the mindset, right? And then the way that people view jiu-jitsu as both a sport and a martial art, right? And self-defense, like looking at that and going, oh, dude, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, there's been times where I just couldn't even articulate things to my kids to get them excited. But then, like, someone else comes along that is, that does jiu-jitsu, and they say it, and then my kids are like sparked up, right?
Yeah.
I've had that myself, where like I'm sitting in class, I'm like, yeah, that's cool and all, but then I see someone else teaching, and you're like, oh crap, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. But even just the difference of, like, I'm used to these partners doing it this way, and then like you'll get up and you'll teach your way, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing that. Because it may not work for me the way my partner does it.
Right.
But then I learn it from someone else, and I'm like, okay, that fits for me.
Right.
And something that you may have discluded from your arsenal, right? It's not around that you put in the mag, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
But then you learn, like, oh, I can incorporate that. And I know even with white belts recently, talking to them about like I know you really, really want to do that one move. Your body and your mind may not be ready for that move today.
Yeah, not today. Good.
Not today.
I like the way you said that.
Yeah, because like, dude, I've seen it firsthand. Like, I remember there was a time where Ann could even do triangles, and she's itty bitty.
Yeah.
But then I had her throw them in a triangle on a Friday class I was teaching, and I was like, oh, we'll see if she's got it, and she locked in this tight triangle, and I was like, oh yeah, she's definitely along the way picked up her own method of getting into it, and it was so tight.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see different sizes, shapes, backgrounds, and stuff too, because then you get to see people develop something that you may not have seen before, and then now you're like, oh, pretty cool. And if you can't apply it because there's too much of a difference, maybe, like you said with techniques, it's like, now I know how it could be done when someone like that does it.
Yeah.
So then I'm aware, and then it's easier for you to face, when you're in around with them. Yeah, that's dope, man. Yeah, cross training is definitely good. On the same lines, what's competition done for your jiu-jitsu, and what value do you think it brings to jiu-jitsu?
The competitor's edge is a real thing, I think. gives you a realistic look at how you would be treated if someone doesn't care during a roll.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I think that eases up a little bit as you get into rank. People have less to prove, but especially in those early ranks, like you're going for wins, okay?
Yeah.
And your technique's not as clean and crisp, and um, you just think differently in the higher ranks. But I think in those early days, it gives you a real look. Like, I don't roll with you. I roll hard with you. I roll very hard with you. Like you said, I treat you like I'll roll with you like you're a brown belt. I don't care, but I don't do that with everybody. I do that with people
Right.
who I think can handle that type of thing because they need an earlier look at it for their progression. I feel
Yeah,
like.
for sure.
Yeah,
And if
wrist
they're
locks
game,
like wrist locks and stuff. I'm like, you don't want to be the guy that learns that stuff. Like once you're already a brown belt, now you're learning the leg lock. Like
yeah, for
you want to
sure.
be exposed to that beforehand.
Yep.
The competition though gives you a good look at how people would really treat you if you were, they didn't want to be nice. And it also gives you a good look at your own game and what works. There's been times where I taught things in class that are legit, that work in class a lot, and then I compete and I try it, or I don't try it for a certain reason, and I come back to it and I say, okay, this works, but this is a scenario it works in. It might not work in like that level. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, I get it. And we can use the last class that we did together at night was the Kanto choke, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a way that like the way that we first taught it, that first one was like that's kind of like a standard. It's like just like a Kanto choke, right?
Yeah.
But then when you finish up that final technique, that final variation of it, it's like, look, this is a way where you can fully isolate. Boom, boom, boom.
Yes.
And here's why I would use it. Boom, boom, boom.
Yes.
Because it's fine tuning it, and I think being able to do that the way that you do from your competition experience is really crucial for everyone that are in the same network as you.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to our jiu-jitsu, right? Because you're battle testing this thing.
Yes.
And then you're bringing it back and like, dude, stamping it. This is legit.
And that's another reason I compete too. It's just because I feel like I'm a very lucky person. I get to do jiu-jitsu all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm in that position, I need to do my best job. And to do that, I need to compete and bring that back to my team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just, I mean, to also say that just because something doesn't work for me in my competition doesn't mean it won't work for you in your competition.
For sure.
But I just like to be able to convey like, hey, this is why I've taught this, but I didn't do it in the competition. I felt this.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like being able to bring that part to everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Injuries. What is the worst injury you've had in jiu-jitsu?
So my worst one so far, I don't ever go to the doctor for them, so I can't tell you the exact problem. But my worst one was definitely I had some sort of like hip problem. It was, I don't know if it was like I tore a muscle in my hip or ligament or like a labrum gave out on me. I'm not sure what it was. That was my worst one.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't walk. I couldn't roll for months. I went to Disneyland when I thought I felt good, and then my wife ran me ragged there. So I couldn't walk there. It's brutal. It's hard to teach. That one affected me the most. I don't know what it was. It was a hip problem, and still, I really feel better, but I'm not 100%. Like I roll with that on my mind. Yeah. Especially in positions like X guard where there's a lot of weight on my hips, if I'm putting pressure on my legs and stuff. So that was my worst one. Yeah. And it killed most of my purple belt competitions, I think.
Yeah, the same thing happened with me for blue belt because I popped my PCL twice in like the last year. And I know when I injured them because I was using bad technique.
Yeah. And
it was one of those things where you get rough rolls and then sometimes you're like, oh, I'm just going to try to force this situation. And it was a hard lesson I had to learn. And that's something that stuck with me for a long time. There was almost like a chain reaction of stuff in like my knees and my hips as a result of that one injury. And I know for sure that's probably the most troublesome one. I broken all but 2 toes on the mats, always for dumb reasons. I've had a bunch of like random injuries, but that PCL injury was
the brutal one.
It was just Oh, so aggravating, dude. I still feel it from time to time.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you found that like with certain injuries that jiu-jitsu, like you can still improve your jiu-jitsu with an injury? Because I know I have.
100%.
Like I have gotten tennis elbow in both my arms. I don't know how it happened. I don't even attribute that. It's been one of my worst injuries because it's this how nagging it is.
Yeah.
I think I've talked to you recently about this. It's like I've had to sacrifice my frames to a certain point. So like, let's say I'm in side control and I got that like that bent arm, post where I'm using, shoulder to my elbow as like really the anchoring point for my frame. And then when you're switching hips going to north south,
Oh yeah,
just that pressure of the arm closing in on the bicep feels like everything's going to explode and there's like a lightning bolt. So what I would do is I would have to drop my arm and sacrifice that frame.
Yeah.
But I found that like it opened my mind to where it's like, okay, well, when I'm in this position, I need to either find a more effective way to frame or I need to learn to move.
Yes.
And that really helped me. That's where I actually learned how to answer the phone, was through those injuries, because I had this injury as a white belt. And like it just kind of opens the door to like, what can I do when I can't do this? Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably been the same for you, right?
Yeah, 100%. At one point I hurt a shoulder. I rolled one arm for a while.
Yeah, I remember
that. That I don't think it's 100% necessary for everybody to do that, to roll one arm, and maybe not everybody's going to get anything out of that, but it gave me a better sense of just control in general, being able to roll, tuck my hand in my belt. It was good enough to do that, and just use that one good arm and my legs and my guard, and it really puts an emphasis on when someone's passing my guard, what's most important to stop first.
Yeah, for sure.
I got one hand to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was just an example. Yeah, I've cracked both my elbows. Both my ankles have been popped. I have done something to my right knee, but it seems to be okay. Yeah. Aside from like really stiff necks, which I'm sure we've
all done the Batman. Yeah. Golly, man. Freaking Batman's the worst. Yeah. I think it's really important to bring up when you're having like a jiu-jitsu talk, because I know a lot of people are just scared to do that, like to get in there, because they're thinking about injuries first and foremost. And we'll talk about a little bit later about stuff like that. But before we go on to, I guess, like the closing topics, what are some of your biggest pet peeves in the gym?
Oh man,
this is my favorite thing to talk about with people, because like everyone has hilarious stories, and some stories that just like they're worth sharing, right? For even as like a precautionary tale. But like, what are we'll just freaking shoot at the hip, or what are your pet peeves?
Okay, one of them is if I'm rolling with someone with more experience than me, and I happen to get anything that's looking good for me and not them, when they freeze the round
and teach,
drives me bonkers, man. I'm like, I am open, even if I get the move and you have more experience than me, I am open to hear what you have to say and learn from you.
Yeah.
But
in that moment, dude,
don't stop people in the moment. Do it. Take me aside after the round and tell me what I need to work on.
Yeah. I've been self-conscious of that, because that's happened to me multiple times where someone does that and it just aggravates me. But I've caught myself too, where I started to do that and I'm like, no, I gotta let it finish first. Yep. And then I'm like, okay, good. I think that's probably just my urge to want to help people. But at the same time, it's like, dude, it's detrimental. And then it ruins the trust that you have with that individual. And it's like, because I know when it happens to me, and it's happened to me with certain people before, I used to look at them differently. I was like, man, screw that guy. Like, I don't want to roll with that dude. Yeah. Like, if that's how it's going to be. That was my thought, when that happened to me the first time. That's a good pet peeve, man. That's a big one. Parents.
Oh yeah.
The just stand up parents.
Yeah.
We're very thankful that there's a lot of those folks that aren't with us anymore, and I rarely ever hear that anymore.
Yeah.
But it's kind of good. I know we did a parents like kind of introduction. There was a lot of change that led from that, which was really cool. And it's not necessarily because we were trying to weed out those kind of things. It answered some questions for some parents, because every now and then you do get a parent that's trying to coach their kid from the sidelines, and they have no idea what's going on, and they're expecting the kid to get up, and you're like the coach, and you're like, dude, you need to stop. Like, you're not helping the situation.
Yeah.
But then when they get on the mat, we've seen that with people that used to be at our gym.
Yeah.
the parent, in this case, it was a dad that I could think of, he stopped doing that immediately once he had his first smash session. And
I just talked to another one that said the same things. I don't tell them anything anymore because I get it now.
yeah, and I think that's the most beneficial way, is when they just find out, instead of it just being like some dispute and it's causing drama in the gym. Like, there's so many different ways that we as a gym community can clearly fix the situation naturally and without it being like a call out or like trying to embarrass somebody. It's like, dude, like, you can always come on the mat and find out why it's so hard, you know, and or just like being polite, that extra mile, like, hey, dude, please not go speak over the coaches. You know, there's ways we can do that. And I'm glad we do a good job.
In our academy, we'll go like 10 extra miles
for sure.
Any of the kids in the classes.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome. Yeah, and it helps with the relationship. You'll see, I've seen so many times, time and time again, there's stories of our parents in our classes that train, and they're able to talk to their kids, and they're talking about those things, and especially when you have a kid that's more experienced than the parent.
Yeah,
I love that. I love it, because then the parents just like, man, how do you do that thing? And they're like, man, I was trying to stand up too and I couldn't do it. I should never give you any crap, because like, here I am and I can't move. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Another thing that ties into that too is like sometimes our parents will see us teach the technique to the kid or record it or whatever, and then try to like practice it with them at home. But and that's good. That's good that they're invested enough to do that, in my opinion. But what they don't realize is how many things, and this goes for adults too, that they have to learn how to be able to adjust on the fly. Okay, when you show a technique one way, like, the person is not always going to just like, you can get the techniques in one shot for sure. I mean, that's how jiu-jitsu works. But but like, sometimes you have to be able to willing to not chase that out too long. You have to adjust on the fly to get the desired outcome.
And on that note, like, one of my peeves is when someone says this is how you do it versus this is a way.
Yeah,
I know for a fact that you and I, and even Jag and other professors we have, like I could speak especially directly to Andrew and folks that we've been blessed enough to be exposed to, like us and other people. But like, dude, when someone is teaching something to someone and they're like, this is the way, it blows my mind. Like, if you've been in jiu-jitsu for a couple months, you already have a good idea that there's 1,000 ways to do this thing.
Yes.
So for someone to say definitively that this is the way, it's so pompous, and it's disrespectful to so many other people that are at that level of mastery. Like, when you have people that are black belts and higher, and they're like still saying, like, we got 3rd degrees, 5th degrees that are coming to our academy and talking to us, and they're like, this is a way, or this is how I do it. It's not the only way to do it. And they're humble enough to say that. And then you have people that are like, this is how you armbar. It's like, this is a way to armbar. Like, you know, like, because I've learned it so many different ways, especially from having my other half, like having Ann, like the way she does certain things. I've learned crap from her. I've learned crap from the way my daughter does the lapel choke.
Yes.
You know, when I first started learning that as a white belt, I was like, I like the way my daughter does it better than I do it.
Preach.
You know, like watching Ethan and how smooth he was with his jiu-jitsu on the mat. So I was like, I need to learn how to enter that way smoother than he does. Like, I learned it from everyone. So like, who would I to say that this is the way? When I can learn from a child, I can learn from a white belt, I can learn from a black belt. It's just, there's so many different ways that you can get exposed to something that clicks. It's one of my biggest pet peeves.
Also, after we move on to pet peeves, I got a question regarding this note right here.
Okay. Yeah. Stinky guy.
Stinky guy was the next one. Yeah. I understand once we get rolling. You know, I've been in the situation myself where like the rash guard is old and you wash it really well, but once you start rolling, you know, it starts to smell right away.
Yeah.
Been there, done that, all of that stuff. But I think people need to be honest with themselves, take accountability, and figure out a way around that.
Yeah.
So
like,
be aware of that. Long fingernails.
Yeah, the Wolverines. I've had that. I've had my neck slashed in training from someone that was a newer person. We've given them the spiel because we're really serious about the spiel. It's even written in the waiver, like everything about hygiene.
Yes.
But like, I remember I had like it was myself and you remember Lonnie, right? Me and Lonnie both were victims of the same dude. And one day, it was a Saturday class, and I got a neck slash that was like almost 2 inches long from a toenail.
Yeah.
And like, the thought of like someone bringing a rash or like some kind of thing like MRSA, right, or like ringworm, like that, those kind of things. Like we do our best to try to combat that, but just bad hygiene, a lot of people don't realize is
every day, dude. It sounds terrible, dude. I take like 3 showers a day. I take one when I wake up, right before class. I'm taking a shower. I do jiu-jitsu Monday through Friday, even if it's just a kids class.
Then when you get home, after
then when
training,
I
for
get
sure.
home, and brush my teeth every time. I don't care if I brush my teeth 3 times a day. If it's good for my gums, not good for my gums, whatever it is, dude. I'm going with fresh breath and a clean gi.
And someone always has gum or a mint or something like, dude, like there's something available. Just do the thing. But
if someone like obviously I know is clean, you know, and they come in and they have a bad day, which I've seen happen. I'm sure it's happened to me. You know, like I'm not gonna make a big deal, but like if you're coming in, dude, and you're not washing your stuff,
like that's your practice. It's like, dude, that's not good.
Let's fix that.
What's some other peas you got? The rippers, when they rip things. I'm not a fan of people ripping.
Oh yeah.
It's one thing to like send a choke. But to send like an arm bar or a kimura, something that can seriously injure someone's limb, and affect their livelihood, we've seen it.
I'm a big believer on setting things up fast. But once you fall back to that arm bar, you should be doing it fast enough to keep it, in my opinion, but slow enough to give them an opportunity to save themselves. And you need to be willing to just let go of it too. If they're not going to tap, or they're stubborn, or we run into some people with different challenges in their life that led them to not want to tap for certain reasons or whatever. Even if it's ego, whatever it is, they don't want to tap, let it go. I'm not injuring somebody on purpose.
That's, I mean, it's just, you don't want to affect someone's livelihood and their ability to continue the journey. And unfortunately there are folks out there that don't respect that. I know we preach that day in, day out in our gym. I'm very thankful for that. And where the places I've cross-trained, I thankfully haven't run into that. But yeah, I'm not a big fan, because of peeve of mine. I'm not a big fan of when you go to cross-train and you try to treat it like the 80cc trials. Or like IBJJF. Like if you come to cross-train, I feel like there's a certain decorum that you need to keep, where it's like, I didn't come here to actually dojo storm you. Like when we talk about dojo storms in our group of people, it's a joke. It's just a way to describe like, hey, maybe, like we're closed to the holidays, but our friends over here are open. Let's go dojo storm. Like it's not Cobra Kai. This is, dude, like we're going to go train today because we don't have a place to train today.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Now choke, I think there's a different on choke. I think, you shouldn't neck crank people.
Correct.
But I don't think it's as big of a deal to put someone to sleep as it is like breaking elbow.
Agreed.
I mean, the choke, you really don't. Sometimes you don't know. That's how you learn your outcome of chokes. If you're trying to learn a new choke and you're not sure if you got it or not, you got to learn by like letting them tap.
For sure.
As long as I know I'm not breaking their neck.
But there's something to be said though. You can tell when someone comes in cross trains and they just want to get some training in. And they want to build community and stuff like that. Like we were very fortunate. We had two military guys that came through not too long ago, and those guys were gentlemen. Like they were cool. Like I really liked them. They were nice guys. One was from Vegas, the other one was from overseas, and they were just happened to be in town. Was it purple and a blue belt? Really great guys.
Super cool.
But then we have some guys, like I know I had my personal experience with a cross trainer that came over, and I lectured the guy like for a little bit, because like the guy ended up going to sleep, and when I asked him what's up, he's like, "Why do you think you had it?" I'm like, "You're cross training, but you should be more conscious." Like I don't know everything, but I know decorum. And like when you're in like Chili, Jason, he is who he is day in, day out. I was thankful in the military that I got to maintain my personality throughout my journey, going from freaking 0 stripe airman basic up to a first sergeant. Like, but I know that there's a different kind of posture and behavior when you're in different atmospheres and different environments. So like when you go from your house to someone else's house, I think it's still important to go over there with respect, because I would feel disrespected if someone came over to our gym and is trying to kill people in the gym. I'm like, okay, well now we're going to have to mat enforce
Yeah.
because you're not a respectful person to
We
train
really
with.
don't want to get to that.
Yeah.
That's like worst case scenario. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen.
Yeah. And I know like a lot of us have had certain instances with mat enforcement, and I don't feel good about it. Like, but it's necessary, right? But it's like, why did you have to get me to go there? You know, like that's my first thought in my head. I'm like, dude, we all should just be using our brains here, right? Yeah.
If you want to go hard with some guys, I noticed like with Professor Andrews guys, really have a lot of respect for them. They're very close as far as our camaraderie and the way that they run their gym and everything like that. And, you know,
but would
personality.
but would you agree that because there's an established respect up front that you're able to go hard?
Yes, and what I was gonna say is starting out with this relationship, don't roll competition rounds with them.
Yeah.
Right, and then make a couple visits, like if you're gonna be a part of your journey, like make a friend.
Yeah,
get
for sure.
2 or 3 rounds done, and then kind of start to ramp them up from there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agreed. Yeah. So, to keep this thing going, what about coaching, right? So, your journey as a coach and instructor, what do you think has been the most impactful realization, like starting out as a coach, like as a helper coach that we discussed, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the point where you're actually leading instruction and you have like, you know, a lot of time on the mats doing that. Like, what do you think is like the most impactful realizations going from like the beginning stage and then up?
Most impactful realization. I would say that you actually can help people.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of plays in kind of a weird, not from like a point of power or like a brown belt coach, but I would say a huge impact of being a coach is, and we were kind of talking about this the other day, is realizing for me personally how awesome people can really be.
Yeah.
That was a big one for me getting into it. People come to me for answers sometimes. That's kind of weird because like I feel like I'm just like a guy,
Yeah.
you know. But everybody really likes to look for answers and realizing that maybe I do have like something that I can help them with.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is big. Like I'm happy to help people. I don't hold anything back.
Yeah.
Does that answer it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had like two big things. Like I know I'm still at my level, but like the important thing for me that I learned was like what we talked about before. It's like I remember the first day I was a helper coach. There wasn't many coaches on the mat, and I think it was Sev at the time that was there, and he was like, "Hey man, I need your help on the mat," and I was like, "I don't even know hardly how to tie my belt." He's like, "You just need to pay attention and make sure the kids are doing what I'm showing them."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, I could do that."
Yeah.
But I was like, I had learned so much through that process, and I was able to build relationship with the kids. So then when I become more experienced at being a helper on the mat as a coach, now there's like trust, right? And then now when I'm going to them, telling them things, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And you just see this flow. But dude, like you were saying that you saw the benefit of seeing how awesome people can be.
Yeah.
For me, it was like just relationship building and community building. You don't really quite realize just how invested and plugged in you are into a gym when you spent all that time on the mat, and then you're investing in other people. And like for me, like I was telling you with my fundamentals, it's been being able to help people play chess better, right? Like if I teach you this, I'm teaching you the best way I know how, and I'm going to articulate it as best as I can so you can pick that up and hopefully it works for you so you can use it against me and people like me. Because if I can teach you this best way, then you're going to come at me. Let's say it's like a guard pass, and then you end up using that on me and you're successful. Not only am I going to be celebrating of your accomplishment, I'm like, dude, that was freaking awesome, right? And we're so good at that at our gym. I learned that from you guys, was just like how encouraging you guys were when I do something good. And then when I'm sucking at something, you guys have the care enough to be like, hey man, like, and you help critique some things, right? But you don't have to be a jerk about it. But like you guys are also like, dude, that right there, that's why this happened. I'm like, oh, that. And the other side of that, right, when I get past, not only am I celebrating, but I'm like, I'm going to figure out a way to stop that.
Yeah, exactly.
And we help level each other up in that regard. And I think it's just been one of the coolest things about coaching.
That's definitely one of the benefits of being the coach is like you're showing what you know, and they're going to try to do it to you, or you're going to try to do it to them. And they're going to see it coming because they know what you do, and you've showed them, and you know you're learning how to stop them from doing it from you, and being able to do it to them, even though you just taught it, and they're aware of it, and then that's where a lot of growth comes from. I feel like.
Yeah. I think it also puts a stamp on like the validity of what you're teaching, because you can still throw it even though they just learned it. And like I think there's a lot of lessons and fundamentals that I have come up with based on those scenarios. Like, because you'll do it, you'll teach it to them, they try to do it and it doesn't work, and they're like, "Well, I didn't work." I'm like, "We'll teach a class on that, and I'll show you, and we'll do it on the defensive side instead." And it's just really cool it kind of helps guide you using real life application. Like it helps guide you to come up with ways to help people level up even more. It's so fun.
One other huge impact too as a coach is I've learned to lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, some of these things I didn't really value before jiu-jitsu. I'm just like a normal guy that never really did anything great, honestly. Mm-hmm. But when I started jiu-jitsu, it was like leading by example. I have a lot of kids. I teach the kids classes, and I work with some of the competition kids, like on Saturdays after the adults class. Just a few of them I got put together that want to learn more, and to be able to like lead by example, do a competition, and like one of them came to watch the competition, mm-hmm. and like to put myself out there and let them know I'm not asking anything of you that I wouldn't do myself.
For sure.
I think that's important to me.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, and I try to treat my kids' classes. I have to obviously keep them quiet and everything, and like have control of the class. But I much prefer to treat them like my teammates,
right,
and my brothers and my sisters, than like they're like in boot camp or something.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
agreed. So with that said, right? If we were to close out and then like really put like a stamp on this this episode, let's do this in this way. How has jiu-jitsu helped you, and what is your message to someone who's maybe thinking about doing jiu-jitsu?
Okay. Yeah. Jiu-jitsu, I could go really deep into how it's helped me. I'm gonna try to keep it short, but jiu-jitsu has helped me see the good side of people. I wasn't really a people's person at all in school, in work, anything I ever did. I was never a huge people person. And if you're going to try jiu-jitsu, take advantage of your trial classes. Find a place that really fits you in your area. Hopefully you have a couple choices to try, because jiu-jitsu will show you how great people are. And even when things can go south sometimes, there's still, you're surrounded by great people in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu, people who stick with it, they're exceptional people. And it's just helped me mature too. I feel like I really didn't hit like maximum maturity until I started jiu-jitsu and started, I don't know what it is, man. People that I'm surrounded by, or like the difficulty of it, or like the work ethic that it requires. I'm not sure what it is, but it definitely bridged the gap from like childhood, teenhood, to manhood. Even though I started a little bit later in life, I really was slow on the end of like maturing and being the man I need to be. So jiu-jitsu led the way, and that has to do a lot with people like Jag and Alec and people I'm surrounded by.
Yeah, agreed, brother. Yeah. So we'll leave it at that, man. I really appreciate you taking the time and just like sharing the memories and sharing like your journey, because I think it's really important to get more than just someone like me on this podcast to sit here and just tell you about my story. Like my story is so limited, and to be able to get it from different perspectives with different ranges of experience, and just to be able to be real and to have this interaction, I think it's meaningful. It's fun. Like we can just talk about this stuff that we do on the regular to share these moments. I'm glad that you're able to come here, share a lot about yourself, and we'll get you back on again in the future. But just like, yeah, man, it's been a pleasure to sit here and do this episode with you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you guys enjoyed it, tune in. We're gonna have more people, and yeah, let us know what you think. So thank you so much again, and signing off. We'll see you next time.
Check you.
The Dirty Shirts